A store full of comic book fans turned out. They'd been waiting all week to meet this man, Bob Layton, the comic book artist responsible for such characters as Iron Man and Spider-Man. Out in the street, Bob Layton's arrival wasn't exactly treated like a presidential visit.
Bob Layton, does that sound familiar?
Bob Layton. Sounds like a Bob Layton Chevrolet. Is it a Layton Chevrolet? I think there is an automobile dealership by that name.
He's one of the greatest comic book artists alive.
Bob Layton is the first comic book artist in modern history to show Galactus with his helmet off.
I couldn't afford to go to college because I was relatively poor. And I just really decided I was going to teach myself and get into comics. So I started publishing my own little amateur comics. And I started sending them to the comic book companies. And finally somebody happened to notice it after I got to a point where I developed enough that it looked even tolerable. And one of the guys called me and asked me if I'd be interested in working as his apprentice. So I packed up everything I had. I had $200 in my pocket, and I drove to Connecticut, where the guy lived. I wound up, sending samples up and got work. I've been working there ever since. It's like a dream come true.
He worked for the government. Oh, I can't think of what organization he worked in, but he wanted to get out of Washington and came back to Boston.
You guys take offense to somebody not knowing who he is?
No. Not at all. Not at all. If you were to name any Major League Football player, I'd have no idea who you were talking about.
He was in the legislature at some point.
Do you know who Bob Layton is?
Bob
Layton.
I'm a sailor. I'm a Filipino sailor. I have no idea of the man.
I'd like to work for comics eventually, doing my own strips and things like that.
Okay, so this guy is your idol, sort of. I mean, you want to...
He's one of them. He's one of them. I mean, there's many involved, but certainly he's up there, and top 10.
It's really an art form all of its own. It's no longer just kids reliving memories or fantasy worlds. It's actually people using it for investments, and also because the artistic value of it is so enhanced by the quality of the artists that have come out in the past 10 years, like Bob Layton.
Meanwhile, outside of this establishment, out on Exchange Street, our man in the street is still trying to figure out who is Bob Layton.
There's a Layton that was appointed to one of the regulatory agencies by Nixon, by our current president, that man in the White House.
At Moondance Comics, I'm Dick Gosselin for News Center.
Now there are two, right?